Africa Investor Today is proudly brought to you in association with Petro SA and Afrexim Bank.
Good day and welcome to Africa Invested Today as we bring you news from the African continent. I'm Zylan. We start today's news with politics and economy. Mozambique's ruling Frelimo party was headed for a resounding victory in national polls on Sunday that would allow it to change the constitution at will and hand President Armando Guebuza a second term in office. Estimates released on Sunday gave Guebuza 75% of the presidential vote, with Frelimo set for a two-thirds majority in parliamentary elections that took place on Wednesday. Afonso Dhlakama, candidate for the opposition party Renamo, was seen taking 15% of the vote in the presidential contest, with Davis Simango, head of the New Movement for Democratic Change party, seen on 10%. Observers from SADC said in an interim statement that Mozambique's elections were a true reflection of the will of the people. Voter registration for Sudan's first presidential and legislative elections in nearly a quarter of a century, due to be held in April, kicked off on Sunday. Sudan, Africa's largest nation, is due to hold its first general elections in 24 years in April 2010. Some 19 to 20 million eligible voters will be able to cast their ballots for the new president, for parliament, as well as for local officials across the nation. Sudanese voters have a month to register for the polls, and in order to reach all potential voters, the authorities have set up both fixed and mobile registration centers across the country. We'll be back with companies and markets after this break.
Redefining energy means redefining life. At the Petroleum, Oil and Gas Corporation of South Africa, our commitment to greater innovation and greener fuels has made us pioneers in the field of gas-to-liquids technology. It has also earned us worldwide recognition for producing the cleanest fuels through environmentally friendly processes. That's how we've become the international leader in diesel technology. Through pure innovation, pure energy, pure brilliance.
On to companies and markets now. In a few months, Oando PLC, a small oil company in Nigeria, is expected to take a rare step for any Nigerian company by applying for listing on the London Stock Exchange. The move is an indication of something even more unusual about Oando. It is in a position to become this oil-rich country's first major energy company. Oando is paralleling its position as Nigeria's leading fuel retailer, a status it built just in the last few years, into plans to be a bigger integrated oil company. With strong management that is seen as credible to the broader investor worldwide, Oando has separated itself from a raft of other small local players. Oando, with stock listings already on the Nigerian Stock Exchange and the South African JSE Limited, has received shareholder approval to raise $1.3 billion from local and foreign creditors to bankroll its expansion. Limited electricity supply looks set to dim the profit growth hopes of Kenyan Power and Lighting Company shareholders. The electricity distributor doubled its dividend payout to 8 shillings a share and increased its earnings by 88% to 3.2 billion shillings in the year ended June, on the back of a 24% rise in retail electricity prices last July. KPLC also saw its revenues shoot up by 52.4% to 36.4 billion shillings, despite the firm raising its unit sales by a mere 2% to 5.322 gigawatts per hour. With no additional tariff increase expected until 2013, financial analysts reckon that the power firm will find it difficult to replicate that performance this year. With that, we take a break. We'll be back after this. Stay with us.
Afrexim Bank is Africa's leading trade finance bank, an organization dedicated to promoting African trade through credit, risk-bearing and advisory services. We pride ourselves on having local presence throughout the continent and are committed to extending our award-winning trade and project finance programs to unlock private sector development continent-wide. We invite you to become a part of our vision for a strong Africa in a changing world. If you trade within Africa, contact us to support you.
On to banking and finance news now. Standard Bank has been hailed as the champion of emerging markets by Ruben Vardanian, the chief executive of Troika Dialogue, a Russian investment bank. This underscores Troika's rising interest in Standard Bank, which has boldly expanded into Brazil, Russia and China before and during the global economic downturn. Speaking at an exclusive interview after attending the Africa Forum 2009 in Cape Town, Vardanian said Standard Bank had good international expertise and outstanding risk control systems. In March, Standard Bank bought a 33% stake in Troika in a deal that saw Standard Bank swap a $200 million convertible loan. It is estimated that the tie-up with Standard Bank would bring Troika's capital base to more than $850 million. Ahead of an imminent meeting of potential investors with the Central Bank of Nigeria, the likely configuration of the post-special audit of the banking system may see the emergence of GT Bank, First Bank UBA and Zenith Bank as industry leaders with a combined equity share of 54% Renaissance Capital. The four banks' projected market share represents a 54.3% increase over their pre-audit share of 35%. RenCap, in its current industry update on the banking sector, noted that with the current 35% assets share, the banks could add 10 points to their asset market shares over a couple of years, with other indices remaining constant. We continue after this break. Stay with us.
Africa Investor, the leading African investment magazine, is essential reading for investors in Africa, filled with the very latest in Pan-African investment and finance news. In addition, log on to africa-investor.com to find out more about our exciting capital market infrastructure and tourism events, and our long-standing investable Africa Investor 100 Index series, which tracks over $600 billion of African equities. Doing business in Africa, you can't afford to be without Africa Investor.
And finally, in infrastructure news now, the availability and cost of electricity supply, skills and transport infrastructure cause the greatest concern when persuading investors to invest in South Africa. These were the problems expressed to SACA 24 this week by various officials concerned with marketing, trade and investment in their respective provinces at the Department of Trade and Industry's annual Trade and Investment Conference held in Johannesburg. The unrelenting economic crisis and a lack of finance are still keeping investors away, making these institutions focus largely on retaining existing investments and jobs. Internet speeds in Rwanda are set to improve dramatically with the laying of a 1,500 kilometer cable by Green Future, a last-mile connectivity company. The Kenyan-based firm will spend about 900 million shillings in the cross-border project that will connect Rwanda's capital Kigali to Uganda's capital Kampala with a high-capacity fiber optic link. Currently, Rwanda is linked to Kampala through a net of microwave stations that have a limited capacity in the era of fast internet connectivity. The terrestrial fiber optic link will up the stakes in the East African telecom scene as the region gears up for landing of several. And with that news, we wrap up today's bulletin. Do log on to africa-investor.com for more news. Goodbye.
Africa Investor Today is proudly brought to you in association with Petro SA and Afrexim Bank.